بعد قليل، لذا نرجو منكم التكرم بالاستعداد والجلوس في المقاعد المخصصة لكم.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most beneficent, good evening, everyone. Your Excellencies, distinguished audience, media professionals, ladies and gentlemen, in person or virtually, welcome to the government press conference of the 28th edition. In this press conference, we are welcoming and receiving His Excellency Mr. Mohammed, the Minister of Finance, to further speak about the expectations, anticipations of finance across the medium term and the economic expectations across the medium term and the financial policies of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now we'll give the floor to His Excellency Minister of Finance, Mr. Mohammed Al Janab. Please, the floor is yours, Your Excellency. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most beneficent, peace be upon you all. Welcome all to our annual press conference. And I hope this year that we will come up with the outcomes to further explain, elaborate what has been done this year and what is it that we expect to do over the upcoming year for a budget that we promise you all to be a step to achieve our target of Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have followed up the statement of His Royal Highness Crown Prince just recently, Crown Prince, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is a mind-blowing statement that really deserves to be read over and again. His Royal Highness explains clearly what has been done, what has been achieved, what has been realized over the recent 10 years in such a journey of Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. His Royal Highness has further elaborated on a clear-cut vision in this kingdom, which is the first interest of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is placed on citizens, while ensuring and confirming clearly that their excellencies, ministers and the decision makers, statesmen, to further focus on all that serves citizens to enhance the quality of life, economic growth and development, creating job opportunities for our citizens, males and females. This is not new and not no wonder. Of course, His Royal Highness also talked clearly and explicitly about the future, the third stage of Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which His Royal Highness aspires, and we work all in tandem, in perfect harmony, to achieve this ambition, to speed up the realization, to realize the steps, clear-cut steps to achieve Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to enhance the impact of what has been achieved in such preparation, as His Royal Highness well stated, to go beyond Vision 2030. His Royal Highness also talked clearly in a crystal clear way that what has been achieved over the recent years was all based on clear-cut decisions and directives by the custodian of two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz, and also by all the citizens, males and females of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Well, without the efforts of the Saudi citizens, without their engagement, participation, all the activities that all started and sparked by the government and all the way across each and every citizens to make the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at higher positions, to enhance the growth and development of the national economy in such a way to be of great importance to citizens. I'll be speaking about today three components. The first one, in a brief overview about Vision 2030 in brief, of course, and then I'll be speaking also about what has been done in 2025 also in brief, and also I'll be speaking about figures 2026, of course, both in terms of economics and economy, and in terms also in terms of finance. I'll give you more floor, more room to further speak for the professional media to make your questions, comments, contributions, and we hope that will be successful, of course, in providing you the answers and responses. In our journey and roadmap of our future Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have an expressive slide we started over the 5 years as of 2016 all the way up 2020, through which, of course, we have done a lot of economic reforms, a lot of social activities that is par excellence extraordinary, a lot of financial structural reforms, governance, different ecosystems actually that we do need really in this kingdom of Saudi Arabia that we need to build on, of course, over the upcoming years. The second stage, which of course this year 2025 is the end stage, of course, which is implementation stage, and we have seen a great momentum over the recent 5 years in such a great speeding and accelerating activation between the public sector and the private sector, between the government and the citizens, through which, of course, so many initiatives have been achieved, realized, programs, projects. I'll give you a brief idea about this because for the brevity of time, we cannot speak all about this. Of course, the figures and the numbers are self-evident to achieve 5 years ahead to achieve 93% of the KPIs. This is really mind-blowing. And to make it up to 85% of the initiatives or in progress on track, this is really something that is extraordinary, and this is mind-blowing. The good thing about the 299 KPIs is that big number of KPIs have achieved targets of Vision 2030, 5 years ahead of 2030, which is a great achievement par excellence, which is really extraordinary achievements. I'm saying this again and again clearly, where the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economics, and Ministry of Industry, and Ministry of Transport, and Ministry of Education, all the other ministries will not be just luckily enough only, but this is all due to the wise leadership directives and the engagement of the citizens. They are really the actors, the players. We are very proud of them. I myself personally very proud of the citizens of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in such a way of what they have really achieved so far. The second stage, which of course will kick off as of next year, which is enhancing the impact and to be well prepared for after 2030, and we are ambitious enough to celebrate every year from such podiums the achievements, will celebrate such achievements to be realized by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the benefit and the interest of citizens, residents, visitors, guests to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The budget of 2025, I think we might have heard of the statement announced recently, the numbers of budget 2025, of course, which were like more than $1,300,000,000 and also so there is a deficit of about 245 budget deficit. So the budget deficit is different based on the uses or the application. For us in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this year, of course, in this stage and the recent years or previous years, the deficit was strategic, targeted actually. It was a deficit based on a government policy estimated, and that the national economy and its own financial ability or power can spend to achieve great projects, initiatives, strategies, all the way up to so that we can, even if we borrow. The reason behind it is that this kind of borrowing, 245 billion, is to make or create more impact, and this is what's going in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The growth and development in the economy, in the national economy, and then oil economy is about 5% over the recent years. This is a great current growth. Most of the expenditures we are doing will bring a return after some years. With this in mind, of course, so it is good to continue, and this is our own journey in 2026, 2027, 2028, to increase expenditure as long as return for this kind of expenditure will be higher than the cost of borrowing. And this slide, equally important, it focuses on what has been confirmed and emphasized by His Royal Highness. The main purpose is the citizens and the support coming from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So these are some examples in terms of the social support. I will not read out the numbers, and I'll be moving to the next slide. But what's good about this is that the key pillar of the government action and work is first and foremost the male and female citizens. What is it that's good for them? What is it that comes of great importance, of great interest in terms of strategies, projects, programs, creating more job opportunities and great businesses for our citizens in such a way to achieve security, stability, peace, prosperity, and preparedness and readiness. This is a very important slide where we need to think and reflect over, particularly for economists. These structural changes that took place ever since Vision 2030 came into play, 2030 of course, is not easy to achieve in economies in a short period of time ever since Vision 2030 came into play, whether relating to investment, special or private investment, to change up to 40%, to change in about less than 8 years, ever since the actual implementation of the programs of Vision 2030. It is really difficult to push the private sector investment all the way up to 40%, but really in Saudi Arabia it has been done, and this reflects the great trust and confidence by the investors in the national economy. The non-oil activities contribution, of course, is really extraordinary and exceptional, and the level that we have achieved is really historical. Similar, we made up to 55.4. This is really unprecedented, extraordinary, and this reflects, of course, the target of Vision 2030, not just at 2023, but also 2023, but also before. Relating to the sector of tourism is still ongoing at the same momentum, thankfully. Thanks go to God, of course. In 2025, all the way, of course, half or mid-year, higher than 2024 figures and numbers. With this in mind, the deficit comes into surplus, which is really an achievement that is difficult to achieve in a short period of time. This is really such a great achievement. The non-oil exports has seen such a great quantum leap, and I am sure that this is the beginning, and yet more yet to come. This is still the beginning, and yet more to come. And so we will see a lot of leap in the non-oil exports, and it is widely known that the industrial cycle or life cycle takes more time for production to come into play and exports come into play. So what has been achieved over the 3-4 years recently is something that we have not yet seen the impact, and we will be seeing it in the near future. Relating to 2026 budget, you might have looked into the figures and numbers. I will talk about this quickly and in brief. What is good for me, of course, something that you have not looked into other than the words in the statement. We will continue in the expansion expenditure, the purpose of which, of course, is not to cope up with the economic life cycle. When we look into the global economy, we see kind of reduction in terms of the growth and development at about 3% globally, of course. So when we look into our oil production over the 3-4 years recently, it has dropped down. I'm not talking about the price, I'm talking about the oil production. So I'm talking about the economic life cycle or cycle. So this requires that the government should not surrender or give up because we have been trapped just like in the past, and we enhance the return, and we, of course, so it is very important there should be kind of stability. It is very important to make our planning so that even for economy and for the business people, for investors. And this is something that we're really working on. With this in mind, we do expect that the expenditure from 1 trillion to 313 in 2026 all the way up to 1 billion 1 trillion point 416. We do expect as well the returns to increase. The growth of returns will be supported by the growth and development that is accelerated. We've seen this, of course, recently for each and every year. It is a accelerating growth and development for the oil products and the production, which will enhance the return over the upcoming years and yet and beyond. The expenditures by sector, you see it in front of you, and it is now published and posted by the budget statement. What is good for me here is to talk about what is very important, our main focus and main foci, even though with different projects, initiatives, and the expenditures on the strategies and the big and mega giga project, but still we always focus on the key services, enhancing such services in such a way to enhance the service provided to the citizens. And we see the expenditures on education, healthcare and health and the municipal services all the way up to 588 billion riyals. The impact maximization phase that will start next year, it is a phase that requires a lot of work, whether at the level of the public sector or at the private sector as well. And with definitely, of course, our citizens, males and females. And I also can talk about two key points before we move ahead to the next slides. The first one is, I was really attracted. This figure or number that was published by the authority or General Authority for Statistics relating to the number of the micro enterprises and small and medium-sized enterprises. It is such a great increase in terms of the number for those who have not yet follow up. I'm talking here about figures and numbers that are different across the economy. I believe that this is a very important number. 500,000 just a few years past. Now we have 1,700,000 enterprises, which means that there is about 1,200,000 job opportunities that have been created through Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which means that there is 1,200,000 people have created their own business over these just a few years, and they have not just created their own businesses, but they have recruited, hired, and also created job opportunities. This is for investors, for entrepreneurs, for business owners. This is kind of life cycle where we recruit and hire our citizens. In the upcoming 4 years journey, of course, we will focus on ensuring that the business continuity across all sectors will be always there, but we will focus more and more on certain and selected sectors such as industry, tourism, transport and logistics service. You cannot have a good industrial sector without, or tourism, without having good transport sector and logistics services that are efficient. Technology, which is number 4, and AI, which is critically important, and we have seen great leaps in terms of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia ranking across AI technologies, particularly the government AI and technologies, and we have seen it like across the different government services provided to citizens, males and females. The water sector, of course, has attracted much more focus by the government and more expenditure by the big budget to ensure that this key services is optimized and provided very much like other sectors such as, say, energy sector. These are focus areas that we will continue more and more, and we will focus more in promising sectors that will grow more and more and will develop more and more in such a way to create better economic returns, to create more job opportunities. We do expect as well the continued growth of returns through the growth and development of economy. And I also talked about this point last year, but this is very important to bring it again to focus this the pursuit of the government to enhance the growth and development of economy, and also by enabling and empowering the private sector, which means that we will empower and enable entrepreneurs, investors, so the national economy will continue, and in this case, of course, the non-oil government returns will increase. Relating to debt, you see, last year conference, or this year conference, or the year before, sorry, there were different questions relating to the increased debt risk. And I talked about that I do agree that debt in general, we need to deal with it carefully, cautiously, but debts are different. There are productive debts, and I talked about a company where it takes some debts to make a project. It is a productive debt where it can pay off the debts and make profits. This is something that we are really doing. We are not doing, of course, profits directly, but we are making a kind of economic growth and development. More job opportunities, more and more employment for our citizens. The good thing about this point is that the international entities for ranking also confirm the same kind of trending, even though there is kind of deficit and increased sustainable debt, but the ranking of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been increased and raised this year. Relating to the economic indicators, the good thing here is that the non-oil economy and momentum across the national economy is in progress, is continued in a healthy percentages. The GDP, of course, you do not see the non-oil GDP, because I was asked, and I will answer why we do not include the non-oil GDP. Well, because once we put the non-oil GDP, any analyst understand the oil production and the growth and will understand our own plans. And because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is such an efficient and impacting country, we don't want to see any kind of room to reach out to the strategies and the plans of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in terms of the production all next year and the upcoming years. With this in mind, of course, we only put the GDP percentage, I mean, overall, without separating, and we do expect that this year will be up to 0.4 point in terms of the non-oil GDP, 5% for the upcoming years. You see the numbers. The nominal GDP is increasing, growing for the upcoming years, will be up to 5.6 trillion in 2028, hopefully, of course, and will continue for the government engagement to reduce and to deal carefully and prudently with inflation issues. And you see the numbers and figures. These are the least figures globally, of course, in terms of the inflation percentages. I'll make a pause. I will stop here before I take some questions. I need to select the questions as carefully as such. Due to the brevity of time, I'll take some 3 questions, and I hope they come to the podium over there to introduce themselves, which entity they represent, and make one single question. The reason behind it is just to give more time, more room, more flow to others. I hope your questions will be focused on our themes and topics, which is about budget and economy and the economic growth and development. Who will start? Okay, please. Yes, please. I'll go there to the right and then pick you there later. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, great. Please, please. Hello. Peace be upon you. Your Excellency, thank you so much. Well, speaking of the transparency for budgeting, and all the figures and numbers are widely known. My name is Mohammed Al-Bishi from Al-Iqtisadiyya journal, and this is a high level of transparency for the figures and numbers of budget. So I won't ask about this. I will ask one thing about debt and deficiency. Do you have at the ministry any kind of internal KPIs to measure the economic impact in terms of the return or the debt in turn return, which is like also relating to the financial stability? Did the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia come to the financial stability for the non-oil returns in terms of the economic diversification? Because this is a key target for Vision 2030. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you. Please go ahead. Next. Peace be upon you all. Reuters newspaper. I'll ask the question in English. تشكل القروض و 70% السؤال.
Allow me just a clarification, not a question, on the Jafurah gas project. The budget says that, it lists it under achievements and says that it essentially seems to say that it's begun producing. So is that correct?
تفضل.
Next. Hello, Your Excellency. أنا أعمل في أحد الصحف الصينية.
To see that under the guidance of Vision 2030,
تحت رؤية
Saudi
2030
Arabia continues to make new progress in economic diversification. China is Saudi Arabia's largest trading partner. Saudi Arabia has long been China's biggest trading partner in this area. So may I ask what your expectations for the future China-Saudi Arabia's cooperation? Thank you.
Thank you.
As for the deficit and return, I believe that if governments like companies, it will be easy to apply the accounting standards and produce or develop financial statements stating that I have invested such and such, and these are the returns. National economies and governments do not play this way or do not operate this way. Returns are not direct returns. We look the non-oil returns. This is very important, of course. When we look into the annual growth and development over the recent 7 years, each and every year, more than exceeding the non-oil returns was not included in the budget, of course. This is a direct returns, but this was not the key returns. This is one of the returns. Economic returns are to provide investment environment. Economic returns to provide environment for investors to create job opportunities. So that is why we create this kind of investment environment for the job opportunities to create it, to enhance the quality of life for people. With this in mind, enhancing the quality for life for citizens, visitors, guests, and attracting more visitors and guests and tourists to create job opportunities and business opportunities as well. There is a long list, of course, for the economic returns, some of which are achieved directly or quick wins, and some others take years. Some infrastructure financial returns to build a report takes about 10, 11 years or 7, 11, 10 years to build a network of roads or rail. It takes like 10 to 7 or 7 to 10 years. So sometimes you cannot like produce returns really come after years or after decades. Did we arrive at the sustainability stage? The quick answer, no. But we are seeking to realize it. Well, yes, of course, the management prudently should carry out this. Today, I can say that we have the ability to face any kind of external shocks efficiently and effectively. But when we talk about the level, the long-term sustainability, it means that we come to a point where we achieve targets of 2030. 2030 vision, still oil makes up a very important part of the government returns. When oil prices shock, so the government returns will be impacted. We cannot say that we have come to a sustainability stage as long as we are impacted by these kind of factors or external factors, and then sometimes we need to borrow. Does this mean that we are at risk or at stake? No, it doesn't mean at all. Does this mean that we have great challenges to face in the public finance? No. But definitely, yes, we need to see, we need to work in tandem, we need to work hard for a long term, of course. The one who did ask in English about the number of the grants, I don't have any detail, but I promise that one of the staff members will give you some answers, and I don't have any answer for Jafura because this is out of my power or my discipline. The one coming from China, you are most welcome to Riyadh. Because you did not introduce yourself, I only so you are most welcome from Timor. The one asking from China, talking about the relationship between Saudi Arabia and China, well, because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is the greatest business partner in China, and China is also the biggest partner for Saudi Arabia in the region. And what does it mean, the future for both? Well, I think that we will have a very strategic relationship with China, and it would continue, and we have a prosperous relationship for the both countries. And China provides not just for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but for so many countries. It has a lot of expertise, experts, technology. It's such a great big market for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Most of the exports from Saudi Arabia go to China. So this kind of relationship will continue and will grow and develop, we hope. And we wish China and the Chinese people to make more progress, development and growth. I'll pick 3 questions, please. 1, 2, 3, please. Sorry. Okay, no worries. You are 4, it's okay. Please go ahead. Good evening. These are great achievements that we feel proud of. I have a question of 2 points. When can the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia depend on the non-oil products almost fully or completely? Is it in 2030? We also noticed that in 2027, the increase of the GDP all the way up to 3.6. Why this kind of decrease? Thank you. Please go next. Naif from Al Ikhbariya, thank you so much for this level of transparency. I wish you rapid recovery. Tax returns are sent to the authority of tax, zakah and customs, while the tax of white lands doesn't. Is this correct? And if yes, why? Can we know the reasons? Thank you. Next, please. Peace be upon you. Abdullah Al-Amari Al-Yom newspaper. We noticed, Your Excellency, that expending on education and health about 260 billion, and there are plans to privatize these 2 sectors. There is public sector expenditure, and there are plans for privatization. How is it for 2025, 2026, 2027, even 2030? So how you strike a balance between privatization and the public expenditure? Thank you so much. Go ahead, please, next. Hello? Wish you happy and rapid recovery. Hazim, when can the non-oil returns key contributor to the budget? Thank you, Excellency. Next. Salman Al-Garni, Al-Sharq newspaper. I'd like to ask you, Your Excellency, about restructuring some projects. Will you restructure some projects based on the budgets to be allocated for such projects, how to relocate the budget and the structuring such projects? Do you have any plan for these projects? Thank you so much. There is a question that was repeated twice, of course, and when we can make it. My answer will be a little strange. I'll explain it further. I hope we will not come to a point where we depend only on the non-oil returns, because it is a stage, it means that oil is over. Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has not been developed to not depend on oil returns. Oil is a key contributor and the big wealth that is sustainable for years yet to come, and will use it, this great wealth, to build a very robust economy. To make non-oil products will be sufficient enough to support us and tide us over for the budgets, the expenditures, and will invest more and more for the upcoming generation. This is our ambition. The ambition is to enhance the growth and development of the economy, the national economy, to come to oil returns, to cover each and every sector, every activity, every project, including, and will invest, of course, the remaining, whether oil and non-oil activities for the long term for our generations, to ensure that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will continue with a robust economy where citizens will take care of and will provide more job opportunities, and such a great hub, a great place to attract more talented people, not from the kingdom but also from abroad. We started a stage, just a good kind reminder, the sustainability stage. If we look into the PIF and what happened to the PIF over the recent 7 years, so it was a start. Even it was a big start to grow from 150 all the way up to 600, 800, or 800 billion in a very short period of time. So this is really a great achievement. And I was previously asked, will the PIF distribute on the government to be part of the returns? We have there is no intention actually for such kind of distribution, because it can be possible to do without some part of the loans, and we can say that the PIF will distribute some dividends, of course, for the government, but the purpose of which is to make it like long-term investment for generations yet to come. With this in mind, also the oil product returns will also be used for the same purpose and by the same token. The question about the reduction of production, I believe what is known as base effect, the year before it was higher, so the next year will be a little less. This is normal, but what I emphasizing is that the non-oil GDP as expected to make it up to 5%. Relating to the tax returns and the question about all the tax returns will be sent to the Authority of Tax, Customs and Zakah, there are 2 points. All the government returns will go to the unified budget, treasury, all with no exception. And then comes what? Allocated budgets or returns. For example, zakat returns will not be under the disposal of the Ministry of Finance. It will go to the unified treasury or budget, treasury. So, and the difference between the expenditure and the social insurance and the returns, zakat returns, will also be paid by the government. The returns derived from the taxes of the white lands will be sent to the development of the housing sector and providing products, tools for the citizens. Spending on education and health, we need to have the slide again to ensure the number mentioned by citizens. It is more than 460 billion for the next year. And this doesn't go against privatization. This is just to explain it to you. When we privatize any sector, just to make it clear, when we privatize a hospital, for instance, this means that you have taken one asset that provided services for citizens for free, and you put it into the private sector. If you do so, this means that you have to allocate a budget for providing such kind of service through this hospital. Say, like kidney center was, of course, operated and run and managed by the Ministry of Health, providing such services directly to citizens. It has been privatized. The purpose of privatization is to enhance the level of service provided and also the efficiency of spending, where services is enhanced, or services are enhanced and the spending is less. We have seen this statement last year. For this kind of privatization, we are buying services. With this in mind, we have to allocate a budget for the Ministry of Health to buy the service, to provide a service for the kidney dialysis or X-ray or whatever. So we do need a budget. Even when privatized, the privatization project that does not kind of allocating any budget for those which do not provide services to citizens directly. When you have an asset where you don't need it and does not provide services, this is true. You will get return, but there will not be any kind of financial cost on the budget. One of the media professionals asked a question about restructuring projects. If we talk about, will we reconsider and revisit this project, if you mean this question, will we reduce a project or enhance, oversize or downsize? Well, yes, of course. This is something that is healthy and continued. When you plan for 15 years, you need always to be ready and resilient for what yet to come over the upcoming 15 years. So you need to have the ability to change, to respond for all the changes that may come into play. I will select some 3 questions. You may say that we will be over. Please go ahead. Anyone else over there, please? Yes, 4 questions. That will be okay. Your Excellency, Nadine Hani from Arabia TV channel. Last year, it seems that you did not use the foreign reserves. For the next year, will you have the same plan? I mean, through the budget talks about 2.7. Does this mean 165 billion riyals for the debt, and how much of which will be internal or external, and how much will be for the debt payment or repayment? And one more question. At the time of the interest, PIF would take, of course, some interest rate. What is the plan for the PIF and the NDF? Will it be through assets or allocation or what? Thank you. Peace be upon you all. Muhammad Amir. In realization of the targets of Vision 2030, is the government successful to reduce, in reducing, of course, the oil, reducing the dependence of oil products, and do you expect that you will make a great leaps for the diversification of the income over the upcoming years? Thank you so much. Please, next. Peace be upon all. Abdullah Shamari from ABC Al Arabiya. I wish you rapid and happy recovery. If we speak about the growth of spending or expenditures, which will, of course, support the private sector, how do you look into the support of the private sector? And you have already mentioned that there is a kind of a growth and increase in the SMEs, and you talked about privatization. Your view of privatization, while you talk about the impact of the impact maximization based on Vision 2030 targets. Thank you. Please hold next. Peace be upon you all. Sulaiman Al-Anazi. His Royal Highness Crown Prince has made a statement to implement the remaining budget and to focus more on citizens. My question is, how do you read this statement, and will there be any kind of additional support for the initiatives, projects that focus and take care of citizens? Thank you so much. Good evening, Ahmed Al-Shahri, economic columnist. Well, we are not afraid of budget administration management, but what we are afraid of is the double expenditure in terms of the government projects and the PIF project. Today, our economy can accommodate all this kind of expenditure, which is a good indicator, of course, and a healthy indicator. But what about the inflation indicator, how you manage it? Thank you so much, Your Excellency. As for the reserves, and as we have done last year, we will continue. We will not withdraw anything from reserve, because this is one of the powers and the strengths of the public finance, and we have a level of debt which is, in comparison with others, even with G20, of course, and the return from this debt is high, thankfully, of course, based on what we see across the growth and development of the GDP, the non-oil, of course, GDP, and the growth and development of the non-oil returns. With this in mind, we will continue maintaining the reserves at the same level. To correct it, Nadine, we are not withdrawing from foreign reserves. Foreign reserves are related to the central bank, which is about 390 billion riyals. As for the debt plan, we will publish it, and of course, in commitment to this promise, which will be at the beginning of each and every year, we will publish the debt plan. We are not talking generally about whether it will be like internal or external debt, but what I can say is that we will borrow at the level of deficit, in addition to any kind of refinancing for debts to be due in 2026, minus what has been done by the Debt Management Center, which is proactive actions for some debts that are due in 2026. There are three components for this. One, when we look into 2025, all the way up to the end of the third quarter, the debts that we borrowed, more than half, almost half, to be accurate, about half, were not from the public market. We did not issue any kind of instrument or bond, but we did so through private channels, or like agencies to support the international exports, or special banks as aggregate debts. The purpose of which is to ensure that there will be no supply from the government side higher than what the market can accommodate. In this case, of course, the cost will be higher. Once the cost is higher, for the government, it will be also higher for the whole economy. So we always keep an eye on the economy and the higher cost. Also, we don't want to compete with the private sector in terms of the issuances. It is very important to strike a balance between the internal and external issuances, also based on the needs of the economy and the PIF needs, the real estate debts for citizens, the private sector and entrepreneurs to expand and do more and more new businesses. Relating to the funds, the National Development Fund for the long-term financing or financial planning, it has taken a big share and will provide financing because it's a key component to support the national economy. The National Development Fund is one of the key drivers, actually, where the government uses it to support the growth and development of the private sector. With this in mind, of course, all the way up from this year up to 2020-30, a big amount of money has been allocated to be sufficient for. Where does it come from? What has been allocated as capital for the fund, for the PIF, I mean, or the National Development Fund, is not from the budget. It comes from reserves. But we will not touch and withdraw. We may borrow even if we need to. We may borrow. We don't have any plan to support the PIF in terms of financial support, but definitely, of course, we will continue transforming the assets for the PIF or pushing the assets into the PIF once we are sure that it will be able to manage and operate such assets. One question was about reducing the oil products returns. I talked about this, of course, but it's good to ask this question and to look into the structural changes, the big structural changes across the economy. These structural changes will have such a great impact, of course, in the upcoming years on the non-oil economy and the non-oil returns. And we will continue, and our main purpose, as I've said previously, to make our national economy, to make it to grow, to enhance the non-oil products, to reduce significantly the impact on the changes of the oil returns. One question was about the promising sectors. I believe this is a good question. I talked about this, but this is a kind reminder. The purpose of this over the upcoming 5 years to enhance the growth and development and enable such activities either through policies or through enablement and empowering interventions on the side of the government to spend on the infrastructure and motivate the private sector. But there is a focus, of course, on other sectors that we believe that they have such a great momentum, including industry, tourism, logistic services, technology, transport, energy, water, and this has been referred to in the slide that you have just seen. Relating to the increasingly growing expenditure, of course, definitely we will continue increasing expenditure, but prudently to maintain and protect the public finance. This is one of the most important priorities for the government. That is why we focus always on the public finance sustainability. As long as expenditure or increasing expenditure will help to make the return for the GDP, we will continue. I also talked about privatization, and I'm calling here all who are interested in this, of course, to visit the privatization center, because we have a list of more than 200 projects. Either it is in tender or yet to be, and the details, of course, are published by the privatization center, targeting about billions of riyals for investments, about 800 billions. One question was about, and I also talked about this, of course, what His Royal Highness talked about just recently, and I believe this is clear and self-evident, and we don't need to be reminded. It's a strong belief, a robust belief by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The government was established on key principles and values, including that the government will work for and across and towards the interest and benefit of our citizens. Our main focus is what is it that our citizens will take, either directly or indirectly. What is important for me is that citizens will enjoy peace, security, safety, health, education, good education, road networks, transport, quality of life, more gardens and parks. And the list is too long to mention. We may not be able to recall all the items. So when His Royal Highness makes a statement, he is reminding them, as a Minister of Finance and other ministers, that this is the promise that we have made, this is the purpose that we are seeking to achieve, this is our ambition, this is what we are aspiring for across the different component elements, tools, including the decision makers, statesmen, and this is whether at the ministerial level or other levels. I believe it is equally important. I don't know how much time. Two key points I'd like to draw your attention to conclude. The first of which is that we forget, while discussing numbers and figures, great changes, transformations. I talked about this last year when I talked about tourism, and I said I was dreaming of a stage to be achieved so quickly, but I did not talk about, and it's good to talk about today clearly enough, about such an extraordinary and exceptional transformation, change for the human resources for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The human power, when I see who leads most of the government institutions, entities, I'm not talking about myself, an old man and a senior man. I'm talking about all the leaders across all the public sectors are all really led by great young leaders. They strongly believe in the vision of 2030, and they see that they are led by inspiring leaders, and they have felt and sensed the impact, and they will create more and more. I am extraordinarily proud, and I'm really extremely proud of our citizens, whether at the private sector or the public sector or the third sector as well. They have really been making great achievements, great leaps by our citizens, males and females, and it is really fair enough not to talk about this, but we need to be really proud of them. We need to be really proud of them for the kingdom. The Kingdom of Saudi is really proud of you, and at the end of the day, this is your home. You are building for your children, for your grandchildren, for your generations, and for the kingdom. The second point is, tomorrow, hopefully, there will be the budget forum. We will have so many excellencies, great figures, statesmen, and they will talk about what is it they will be doing for budget 2025, what is it they are targeting for 2026 budget. I'm inviting you to attend, and you will have time to ask more questions and to listen up to the contributions of the speakers, their excellencies. At the end, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude for the Ministry of Media. I have been with them for about 8 or 9 times for the annual budget press conference. Big thanks go to you. Much appreciation, much gratitude for the great organization of such press conferences, through which, of course, we can communicate and reach out to the media professionals and citizens. Thanks for the staff members working at the Ministry of Finance. I am the Minister of Finance, but the great efforts made is not done by me. It is all done by the staff members of the Ministry of Finance. I'm part of the great team. Big thanks for all the people working across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But again, when I talk here about anyone working across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I'm talking here about all the sectors, the private and the public and the third sector. But people really deserve special thanks. We really enjoy peace, security, because we have such a great security men who work around the clock 24 hours, and we have such a great military forces to protect the security, the stability, the safety of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Again, this is not battering up, but this is a reality. We need to be proud of extraordinary leadership and government. Each and everyone is really feeling always proud of the leadership, even inside and outside the forum. The great efforts relentlessly made, not just for the direct interest, but also the indirect interest for the region and across the world, and the great efforts made by the great wide leadership and wise leadership. Big thanks go to you. Thank you so much for your attention. It's highly appreciated. Have a nice evening ahead. Thank you so much. You really, everyone deserves such a great appreciation and gratitude. Great thanks go to you, Your Excellency Minister of Finance, Mr. Mohammed Al-Jad'an. Thanks as well go to the media professionals. Hope to see you again and again. Thank you so much. Your attention is highly appreciated.